The last few days of the YNW Melly murder trial have been crazy. The prosecutor is giving her final effort to convince the jury that Melly committed first-degree, premeditated murder. The defense put up about a day's worth of a fight in order to convince the jury that Melly is innocent. And today, while we wait on pins and needles for a verdict, we are taking a page from Cuff Boys and taking a walk down YNW Melly's Reddit page to see what we can react to right here on this channel. Let's get into it. Okay, first one up. Apparently both the state and the defense want 4 hours each for their closing arguments. I don't know why this seems like a big deal. Someone says closing arguments usually take an hour or so. They about to go crazy. That is not true at all. There is no set time for closing arguments. In complicated trials, closing arguments can actually take days. Can a jury listen for that long? That is a different question. But there's a lot of evidence to review. And if you are on the defense's side and your goal is to find one juror who has one meaningful doubt, hey, listen, you'll take as much time as the judge could possibly give you. Individual Swim 6365 says it's necessary because she has to tell the story, why, what links with what significance the evidence we see holds, etc. Now that is a good point, but do you know why that is true? That's because this is not a locked up, ironed out, easy case. It's not. There's a bunch of inferences to be drawn. There's circumstantial evidence. There's not just like one thing that you're like, oh, well, that does it. Because if that was it, then you wouldn't need that long for a closing argument. You just try to get the jury to focus on that one thing. But I will say one time, a judge asked me how long I wanted for an opening argument, and I told him 10 minutes. Because I just really hadn't measured how long it took. I didn't time it. And I got to the 12th minute, and the judge was like, Mr. Sanford, you're on minute 12. Sit down. Real question is, how long are the deliberations going to take? That's from Smackaham. That is a great question. It's going to take a while. There's going to be some fighting because I promise you, there's going to be some people on this jury who absolutely believe that Melly is guilty. And there's going to be some people who, at least initially, have some pretty meaningful doubts. And those people may not come around to the guilty side, so it could be a little bit. Next up, we got, if they find Melly guilty, this is all the stuff they're willing to ignore. Oh, this could be a fun list. We may not actually get past this post. Number one, they don't know if the shooter was in the car standing outside an open door with their arm in an open window. They have no DNA of the shooter or Melly inside the car. Okay, like many things on Reddit and in real life, there's some truth here, there's some falsehood here. They do know that the gun was close enough to leave evidence that it was basically a point-blank range assassination. So do they know that the gun was in the car when it was fired? Maybe, maybe not, but they know that it was at very, very close range. It doesn't really matter if it was Melly in the car or Melly just outside the car. That is totally irrelevant. Whether there's DNA of Melly in the car is irrelevant. There's video of him getting into the car. So if there's not DNA of him in there, you might think, and I'm just being crazy here, that they tried to clean it so that there was no DNA from Melly in there. But he definitely was in the car, so whether they have DNA is irrelevant. Number two, they don't know the location of the shooting. Well, I don't know if you watched the trial or not, but they do know the location of the shooting. So let's get rid of that one. They don't know the time of the shooting. Look, that's fine. They've got it narrowed down to like a 30 to 45 minute window. So if there's some sort of alibi that takes Melly away for that window of time, so be it. But like, I did not hear the defense put forth that sort of alibi testimony. Now, they did call an alibi witness. He was one of the most not believable witnesses I've ever watched for an alibi, but he does have an alibi, but it wasn't to say, oh, it couldn't have been Melly at this particular time. They don't know the number of people at the scene of the shooting. Well, they know the number of phones, okay, and that was 4, and 2 of those people died, and one of them is Melly, or, oh, whoops, the phone that Melly always uses, and then the other one was his buddy Cortland, who took the car to the hospital. This is not an all-star performance on Reddit here. They have no witnesses of the shooting to place the suspect at the scene. Okay. I don't think the jury has to ignore that. I think they have to understand that, but you don't need witnesses to convict someone of stuff. In my experience, witnesses lie all the time, so I really don't care about that. They have a witness saying the suspect was with them at the time of the shooting. There, that's number 7. That's an actual thing that the jury's gonna have to grapple with. That's a problem for the prosecutor. Is it overcomable? Probably. As I said earlier, I don't think that the guy was a very credible witness. He didn't really know the details and couldn't explain the motivation about why Melly switched cars, which is the most like bootleg, dumb alibi I've ever heard. And what was crazy about it, the defense attorney started out the examination by making sure that the jury knew that he was very, very good friends with Melly and Cortland. That's not a good look. Now, he also said that he was friends with the victim, but I don't know. I really don't love that alibi testimony. They have no murder weapon to tie to the shooter. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, that's a problem. That's a piece of missing evidence. It's not exculpatory for Melly. And what I mean is, there is a type of evidence which could be great for Melly. And let me give you an example. They find the murder weapon and it belongs to someone else. That would be great for Melly. But they didn't find the murder weapon and it doesn't belong to someone else. It doesn't hurt Melly's defense that they don't have the gun, but it doesn't necessarily really help it either. Let's see, they have no evidence of the suspect leaving the scene of the shooting. I'm sorry, am I the only one that knows about the drop pin? He said, come get me. They have no evidence of the suspect lying about anything in relation to the incident. You, my friend, are not correct. Because Melly told people he was in a drive-by. He told people that. He lied. Melly lied about the shooting, and to me, that is a really, really big deal. He lied, publicly lied about the shooting for a long time. Whew, wow, that was a big list. Wow, it's like you didn't even watch the trial. Terrible net, you and I kind of agree. I think it will be manslaughter, not first-degree murder. This varies from case to case. Premeditated murder is, let's say, the worst type of murder, meaning it's the type of killing that requires the highest evidentiary burden. Manslaughter is a type of killing, which is also illegal, which is typically a lesser included offense inside of most murder charges. I believe that he has not been charged with manslaughter, and if you think about the facts of it, there's really not a situation where he could have executed someone who was his friend at point blank range and it not been an intentional killing. Stuart Adelstein is giving strong Lionel Hutz vibes during the closing argument.
What is a contract? Webster's defines it as an agreement under the law which is unbreakable. Which is unbreakable. Excuse me, I misused the restroom.
I love Lionel Hutz. I love The Simpsons. This reference is fantastic. If you watch The Simpsons, you know that Lionel Hutz does not win his cases. And my favorite quote from Lionel Hutz is when he says, it's attorney at law and shoe repair, and he holds up some shoes and says, Judge, I can't get these repaired until Thursday. Oh my goodness. If what you are saying is accurate, it means he's almost certainly going to get convicted. Wow. Bruh, they just showed the 2 victims' autopsy by accident SMH. What he means is the autopsy photos, and the very first commenter is Mr. 410, who says it wasn't by accident, and Mr. You are the winner. That is correct. There are not a lot of accidents in trials, especially not at this point. Those images are not admissible. They shouldn't have had them there, and it was not an accident. Honestly, I cannot imagine that it was not on purpose. So that's my guess. When you're not allowed to show a photo and you show it to the jury, the judge is going to say disregard the photo, And if Melly gets convicted, that is potentially a ground for appeal. I mean, it's probably not enough to overturn a verdict, but they could ask for a new trial. They could ask to overturn the verdict. And I mean, that's a weird move by the prosecutor. So when will we get the verdict? Today? Any way to watch it live? It takes as long as it takes, okay? And not to sound like a parent lecturing some kids in the backseat on a road trip, but we're gonna get there when we get there and quit asking, are we there yet? Because the jury's gonna take as long as they need to take. The faster the jury comes back, the more likely that is that, in my opinion, that they are getting a not guilty verdict. They are going to have to take a while to piece this all together if they're going to convict him, in my opinion. Why doesn't the defense just say Melvin did it? You're funny. That is perhaps a joke, but also as a lawyer, I gotta tell you, if you wanna plead insanity and that you have multiple personalities and stuff like that, you gotta jump on that very early and plead that as an affirmative defense. You have to confess that you've done it, and you've got to get some expert psychiatrists to say he crazy, not just the people in the comments on the YouTube videos. So who actually thinks Melly got out of the car and into the other? Also, why aren't they using both cars' GPS tracking as evidence? Someone says, no one with common sense. Only people with double-digit IQ. Hey, 99 is not a bad IQ. The story of Melly switching cars, it's insulting to the intelligence of the jury. And it doesn't matter if anyone on Reddit agrees or doesn't agree. It's what happens in that box with 12 people in that room when they retire. That is an indefensibly stupid proposition for anyone to believe. I am embarrassed. The GPS tracking is an interesting question, and I don't know that that came out in the trial. If the cars did stay together for a while, that would lend some credibility to the story of Melly switching, so you think that the defense would try to get that. If they didn't stay together for a while, you would think that the prosecutor would want to use that. Now, it may very well be, and this is just a theory, that the other car was not implicated as a potential source of either inculpatory or exculpatory evidence until that data was either stale, missing, degraded, or just straight up gone. It absolutely blows my mind how Bortland hasn't testified. He for real willing to do life for Melly instead of working out some sort of plea deal. Own strength 1967? You and me both. I am not a member of a gang, and I don't really understand the willingness not to save your own skin when it comes down to it. It may be that Bortland is going down no matter what. It may be that the prosecutor has not offered him any sort of meaningful reduction in his potential sentence because he is so screwed. And in fact, he is. And if I were the prosecutor, I wouldn't offer him anything. Prosecution closing argument. This whole time, I thought they didn't have footage of the car leaving the studio. They showed the jury both cars getting on the freeway, and she is timing it up with the calls to Fredo Bang. They also tracked the phones of Melly of Track and Melly at the scene of the crime the next day at noon, meaning they went back to cover their tracks possibly. It all looks sloppy and boring at first, but now it all seems like a well-orchestrated symphony, SMH. Now, I don't mean if they are saying that if Frosty Ad 5601 is saying that the crime looks sloppy at first and well-orchestrated later, or the prosecution's case presentation looked sloppy at first but well-orchestrated by the end of it. But neither of those things are true, because the prosecution absolutely, positively could have done a better job. They should have, at the beginning, made some promises to the jury, saying, these are the things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which we're going to prove to you during this trial. And by the end, you're going to reach this inescapable conclusion that Melly did it. But they didn't. Instead, kind of a weaker opening and then just kind of bounced around with some like weird, unprepared, dumb witnesses, in my opinion. But by the end, it was pretty tight. It really was pretty tight. I don't like Melly's chances. And I will say that based on what I've seen, if I were on the jury, I would probably be convicting him. The evidence is just getting better and better, showing Melly and Sack's phone together the whole time. It's going to be hard to disprove. LOL, she just called the Jeep Melly's murder mobile. She's really having fun with this. Hey, you actually are allowed some latitude in closing arguments to get a little bit silly. Now, late in the trial, she called Melly Mr. Demons, and not for the first time. And of course, defense attorney jumps up and is like, objection, she needs to say his name is Mr. Demons. I mean, that's kind of a jerk move by her, but like, also, you know, he also is kind of a killer, and so I get it. I can't imagine the dread the murderer must be feeling to spend every second in a dirty concrete cell with the threat, oh, hey, whoa, this is getting bad. Use pound experience. This is getting worse. Melly may consider what prison job he wants to do. Landscaping, cooking, or vehicle maintenance. I'm sorry, what about dancing and rapping? I think he'd probably be better at that. I think that's enough. You guys have been fantastic. As you know, we've been heading into the weekend, and then we're back on Monday awaiting a verdict. Will Melly walk free? Will he get the death penalty? I don't know. You don't know. You know what? I don't care. Drop your pro se opinion in the comments below. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a thing, and check out these other Melly trial breakdowns to recap what the jury is currently mulling over. I have to go now. I will see you soon. Bye.